Hey fam, welcome back to the show. I apologize in advance for not great lighting if you're watching YouTube and not great audio wherever you're listening. But this is just how it works. This is what we're doing right now. I'm currently traveling for work and some business stuff, and I don't have all of my fancy equipment, but I wanted to just say, like, this is permission to do it messy. I'm in an Airbnb and I want to record a podcast. So here we are. I also want to just preface this with a little bit of a trigger warning with pregnancy loss, because that will come up in the conversation today. And the reason that I am recording this episode is not necessarily to talk through what we recently went through again, but it's actually to talk about how to show up in your business when life is lifing. Something that's coming up a lot for me in behind the scenes conversations with clients. And so I want to talk about it with you here. Because when you are a business owner, when you're the face of the brand, when you're a content creator, there is no doubt in my mind that you will have moments in your life where life is lifing. And it's not always for something that's quote unquote bad. Like, you might be getting married and you might be going on a honeymoon or having a baby and life is lifing. It could be that a parent is sick or you get sick or you are losing your home or you're moving. Like, there's a million reasons that life could be lifing. I don't even know if that's a saying, but sometimes it's difficult to show up in your business or know how to show up. And there's no rule book. Nobody teaches us how we're supposed to navigate that. And so I want to share with you just a transparent conversation today of, this has never been look at me, it's come with me. It's like, I'm going through this stuff. Now, there's a conversation to be had around vulnerability. How much are you supposed to share? There are some business owners and coaches who think you should share it all. You're the face of the brand. It makes you relatable. And then there's a lot of people, I have a lot of friends who have a pretty clear boundary and they really don't share with their audience anything that's going on in their life. And for me, that doesn't work. I know I don't owe you anything, and that's never why I share, and I don't feel pressure to share. For me, I think the sharing is cathartic. I think it's part of my healing process. And I think just also as a projector, if we want to talk about human design, or my core soul's purpose, like my purpose on this earth in this particular lifetime is quite literally to learn something, understand, integrate it, and share it. That's my sole purpose. It's to be a teacher and to teach through experience and to teach through lesson. And so I feel physically ill. I actually feel like my throat chakra is blocked when I'm not sharing my truth of what I'm going through. And of course, in marketing, I think there's like a fine line between sharing all the time too much, negative, complaining, of course, gossiping, anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I struggle to show up in my business when I don't fully share what's going on in my life. And of course, there are things in my life that are still private. I don't tell you everything. But as I'm recording this episode, 8 weeks ago, Mike and I lost another baby. So I was 10 weeks along and we've been trying to have a family for a while. September of 2022, if you didn't know, I had an ectopic pregnancy at 6 weeks and I lost my right fallopian tube. And 8 weeks ago, I ended up losing a baby at 10 weeks. But what's interesting is so much of our journey recently, if you didn't know, we moved across the country to North Carolina from Arizona. And much of that decision was triggered by the fact that I was pregnant and we were very much leaning into what we wanted and what our values were. And when Mike and I sat with that and have talked about it for years now, as much as we're obsessed with Scottsdale, we love Arizona so much, being 2,600 miles away from family, not having help, not having the baby have a relationship with the family in the way that it would if we were closer to home, it just didn't feel good for us. And so the irony of the whole thing, I think the toughest part was the exact same day, about an hour after Mike and I put an offer on this house in North Carolina to uproot our life and leave Arizona, I found out I was miscarrying. And so there was a lot of questioning of like, do we still move forward with this and what should we do? And this episode really isn't about that. But ultimately, we decided to move forward with the house because that was the decision from the get-go, and those values don't change. And the plan and the hope and the desire is that we can start a family. So that is the end goal. And so we made that decision based on our future selves and sort of putting our chips on the table, like betting on ourselves for the future. And at the end of the day, even if the family thing, if the baby thing doesn't work out, which I'm not putting that out there, but if it weren't to work out, there's no part in either of us that would ever be upset that we've moved back closer to family. But the reason that I'm having the conversation with you today is less about what I went through and kind of my process of sharing, because now, both from the ectopic in 2022 and the miscarriage in 2023, ironically, both times it took me about 8 weeks before I wanted to share. And one of the things that I want to talk about is like, it's not the pressure to share within a particular timeline. It's that I give myself grace and permission to like feel the feelings, go through my process, no expectations, no timelines, no judgment, remove the shoulds, remove the have tos, remove the to dos, and allow myself the space to truly heal. And the healing isn't done. And I know that, right? And again, this isn't just about loss. This isn't just about a parent being sick. This is about anything in our life. We went to Europe last summer and I wanted space and I wanted to be off social media and I wanted a break from the business. And so it's the permission for those things and simultaneously being able to ask for help, whether that's literally reaching out to a therapist if it's something like that, reaching out to the team, asking them to take on more tasks, asking for help at home. Maybe it's just like, hey, I need more help with the dog or the laundry or whatever that might be. And finding different tools and things that will work for you, whatever you're going through, good, bad, nonetheless, right? So talking it out, writing it out, journaling it out, dancing it out, crying it out, screaming it out, and really just allowing yourself to move through the whole process. I think simultaneously, while being a business owner, it's important to know, is it like, where's the line for you? Do you not want to talk about it and share? Because you don't have to. But for me, being, like I said, a projector, I'm much of an auditory processor. And so for me, talking things out is super helpful. I'm also a big picture thinker. So that that's my superpower. It's being able to take what I see, large, big picture, floating up high in the sky, and like pulling it down and creating systems and curriculums and processes that make sense to me. And so when something doesn't necessarily make sense to me, like any human, we're meaning making machines, talking it through and processing it in this way just helps me make it make sense. The other reason for me personally sharing stuff like this is now twice I've been through similar situations here with loss where I just don't feel like it's talked about enough. It's less taboo than it's ever been. And I'm so grateful for that, as is mental health. But there are feelings for me of being very like alone and feeling broken, or like something's wrong with me, or did I do something wrong, and blame and shame, and sort of working through the grief ladder of what it is. Really, that's what it is, right? Like anger, resentment, frustration, all these different things, fears that come up. And so the conversation that I'm having behind the scenes is less about the pregnancy loss. And it's more just about, how do you show up when life is lifing? And how do you show up when you're just not really feeling motivated or inspired? Because consistency wins the game. And I literally just popped off of a call with our elite mastermind girls who are running wildly successful businesses. And I brought this question up to them because I was curious what they had to say. And we sort of like round robin some ideas. So tactically and strategically, when you don't feel like showing up, because it is still important for your business to have a presence, there's things that you can do. You can have posts scheduled. You can have content saved to your phone where you have like a B-roll folder. And that could be anything of just like, it could be a sunset. It could be you walking down the stairs. It could be you cooking dinner. It could be anything like that, whether it's picture or video, that you can then use with text over the top of it, or trending audio behind it, or overlay of like a transparent background. And you can use that content on days that you're feeling sluggish or lack of motivation. And so having a content folder ready to go of B-roll, also having a content folder saved, maybe in your photo album or directly in an app like Instagram, if that's what you use, and saving a photo album of inspiration, of quotes, of memes, of things that you want to replicate or reshare or expand on. A lot of times it's great when you see someone use a quote or something from a book and then they give their 2 cents. That makes them a thought leader, right? And they're just expanding on that thing. So you're not necessarily having to create. Something else that I've been doing for years is using the note section of my phone. And when I am hit with inspiration or an idea or a quote or a book that I'm reading, and I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this one day, I'll write that down real quick, like a little one-liner, a little 1-2 punch, a little concept, a little theory. And so having that like backup. Of course, you could also have people post for you. Like I said, you can schedule things out. You also could just take a break. But the challenge oftentimes is being consistent. And if you're listening to this episode, there's a pretty good chance you've felt this way before, whether your lack of consistency is because you are fearful of sounding like a broken record. Maybe you're fearful of annoying people in your audience. You're fearful of feeling salesy or coming off as pushy or desperate. Or on the flip side of that coin, maybe it's not so much that you're fearful of those things and like you've worked through that and that's not really something that's holding you back, but you're literally just not in the energy of caring, quite frankly, right? Because when life is lifing, sometimes it's hard to care about the business, even if it's the thing that pays your bills. So sometimes it might not be a fear of that type of stuff internally. It might just be the reality of, I don't really care in this moment. There's other things that I care more about. There's other things where I feel I want to put my energy. And so we also talked about on the call, like, how do you move your energy? And that's where I said before, for me, it's, I talk it out, I write it out, I scream it out, I punch it out, I yell it out, I dance it out, I meditate it out. And so it's how can you physically move your body, move the energy, get out into a different environment, change the space that you're in. And sometimes those little changes, taking a shower, taking a bath, those little changes when you step away from the computer screen is sometimes where that motivation or that inspiration really does hit. And I think for me, this is the moment in time where my truth is so important for me to share, because I feel like I almost can't move forward until I share my truth. Again, not because I owe you anything, but it's because I owe it to myself. And I want to be truthful with where I'm at and say, like, yeah, honestly, I have been kind of struggling, because sometimes it feels like the Instagram versus reality, or it feels like I'm a fraud, not an imposter. There's not imposter syndrome, but like, I feel like a fraud because behind the scenes, off camera, I'm really going through this thing and I'm really feeling this particular way. But then for the business, which is an interesting conversation, because I also think it's part of my job as the business owner, it's sometimes to compartmentalize because it's what the business needs. Right. And so it's like, then for the business, I'm showing up and I'm talking about something business related, or I'm putting an offer out, or I'm sharing something like tactical strategies and 5 tips. And so my heart and energy in the moment might want to be elsewhere. But the reality is, especially since Mike and I both work in the business, like, this is our livelihood and there are needs that the business has. But I will put a bow on the whole thing by saying, this is why I'm so passionate about really making sure that you're creating a business, number one, around your life, not your life around your business, but number two, putting systems and structure and automations in your business so that your business is actually running like a machine, and that machine can work with or without you. Right? Like, who cares about getting on and putting out an offer and talking to Instagram stories and making sales every day if you have to be there trading your time for money and your creativity for money and your energy for money? That's cool long term. That's cool short term, excuse me. But long term, I want to build a machine that will do that for me. And it's the same idea here as like learning how to make money, learning how to manage your money, and then learning how to make your money, like make more money for you, like investments and stocks and assets, and then making sure that you're not making money your master. It's like, it's a whole thing. So we can make money online, we could put out offers, we could do stories, and we could do content, but we also can spend time on systems and structure and automations and maybe team and processes, even if you're working alone as a solopreneur, so that things in your business are running even when life is lifing, because life is going to life. And like I said, it might be good or bad, but life is going to life. And there are going to be moments that you don't want to have to be on, or you don't want to have to show up. And there's a pretty good chance that if you're listening to this podcast, you're in the same camp that I am. And I'm not looking to be 45, 50 years old, 60 years old, and like having to be on all the time. That's not what I don't even want that now. Right. So what does that look like? What would you have to do? What changes and tweaks do you need to make this year? Nothing is wrong or bad in your business, but what changes, tweaks, and iterations? What type of help would you need? What type of support would you need moving forward to get your business to a place where it does do that? Because the one thing I will say that has come out of both of these losses is clarity. The silver lining for me has been clarity. Clarity in my values, what's most important to me, clarity in where Mike and I want to live and how we want to spend our time, clarity in how we want to run the business, clarity in the fact that we have actually built so much of the machine that we've been working on for years to build this machine. And unfortunately, it took these two circumstances for us to really see that the machine is working. But I'm so grateful for that. I also just want to say, as I close this out, I'm obviously so grateful for you listening, for the safe space that you provide for me, even if sometimes it feels one-sided, because like I'm literally just talking to myself right now on a computer, but I'm not. I'm talking to you, and I know that you're listening, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that from you, and just for being a part of my journey. I don't share this stuff to get sympathy or DMs or anything like that. And also I know that anytime I do share stuff like this, I generally am swarmed in the best way possible with messages from people, just saying that it resonates, or they've been there, or unfortunately they've had similar experiences, and thank you for, sharing. And I don't feel so alone now. So my hope is that while sharing the journey of pregnancy and pregnancy loss that we've been going through, it's for the one person. It's for the one person who is struggling, whether it's with infertility or loss or anything else in their business, a parent who is sick in their life, not their business, in their life, or for the person who's listening who's not going through any of that stuff, but who does feel like sometimes maybe resentful of the business or confused as to how to show up when life is lifing, and how much should they share, and guilt for sharing or guilt for not sharing. So it's for you. That's why I'm recording this. Consider it a life update. Consider it a peek inside my brain, inside my journal, inside my diary. Whatever it is, like, you're not alone. We're all human. There's like 8 billion of us on the planet. So unfortunately, loss, pregnancy loss, infant loss, any of those clubs, ectopic pregnancy, miscarriages, not a club I necessarily wanted to become a member of. And if I'm being honest, not a club I thought I'd ever be a part of. I just assumed that it would be easy. I assumed it would be like the movies. I assumed, and we both know what happens when you assume. And so whether you're part of one of those clubs or not, we are all part of the human club. We are all part of the human experience, trying to just navigate our way through life. None of us know what we're doing. And so I'm just grateful to be on this journey with you. And that's all. Cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.